Death of a Unicorn is the latest movie to tackle the popular theme of eat the rich, and this movie does it through horror comedy. Paul Rudd stars as a widowed father who works for a giant pharmaceutical company owned by the ultra-rich Odell Leopold, played by Richard E. Grant. Odell is a family man, so he wants to bring in Paul Rudd and his daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, to get to know them a bit before he hands over more control of his company. Jenna Ortega is completely against this. She thinks her father is a total sellout, and on the drive there, they keep arguing until a distracted Paul Rudd hits a mythical unicorn in the road. They don't know what to do, so they stuff the horse in the back of the car and head on up to meet the rich people. But of course, the rich people find out that there is a unicorn, it has healing properties, and they want to harvest it and make all the money. It's a pretty thinly veiled message and one we've heard a lot lately. Rich people are greedy. But Death of a Unicorn tries to bring some humor and some gore to its social commentary. Now, the key word there is tries to. This is a really fun premise, and you could open up so many different avenues for comedy here, but this movie just feels like it is not willing to commit to any of those ideas. Richard E. Grant is so great, but he's essentially playing like a version of his character from Saltburn. Téa Leoni's here, but she's kind of just a rich lady aesthetic more so than a character. The only member of the rich people family that's really nailing it is Will Poulter. Will Poulter is giving us a delightful, ignorant, arrogant, know-it-all asshole, and he's clearly having fun with this character. He's cranking it up to 11, and honestly, I wish that more people had done that in this movie. A lot of the humor in Death of a Unicorn falls kind of flat, but Will Poulter gets it, and so when he's on screen, the jokes actually work. Another huge standout for me was Anthony Carrigan, who I loved in Barry. He plays the rich family's butler in this film, and he's always very sort of snarky under his breath about them in a way that really works. Unfortunately, though, I feel like the weakest parts of this movie are Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd because there's really not that much for their characters to do. We've seen Jenna Ortega as sort of a pouty, angsty young woman in so many movies before. I mean, she literally just did it in Beetlejuice, and this is basically no different from that. Paul Rudd to me was the most disappointing because we know he can be really funny. He's like one of the most charming people ever, and yet he keeps taking these roles where he's sort of just like a dad trying his best. This didn't feel that different from his character in Ghostbusters, and honestly, I'm just kind of bored with it. I don't like the generic good guy dad arc for him. Give me Brian Fantana. That's what I want. And that's kind of what's wrong with this whole movie. In every place where it could do something snarky or clever, it just backs away from it and feels like it's trying to become family friendly, which is confusing because it is rated R and there is a lot of blood and gore in here. So who is this supposed to be for? It's not family friendly enough to appeal to the people who would like Paul Rudd in Ghostbusters or who would like Jenna Ortega in Beetlejuice. And it's not really gory or snarky or clever enough to appeal to your typical A24 folks. So it just kind of feels like this middle of the road thing that's not really giving us much of anything. And it made me so sad because I feel like there's so much potential here. Now, given this is a first-time writer-director and for a first feature, it's definitely not bad, but it just lacks spark. It's not super memorable. It's a movie that I kind of felt like, well, I saw it, and I'll probably forget about it pretty soon after. So as usual, you can read my full review with all of my detailed thoughts about this movie on trashwire.com, but just wanted to pop into this quick video and say, I really wanted to like this movie. It has so much potential, but it just becomes painfully middle of the road for me. If you see Death of a Unicorn, I'd be curious to hear what you think about it, so sound off in the comments of this video, and follow me on Letterboxd so you can keep up with my latest reviews and things that I'm watching.